Paddy Pimblett is a big star. He's very popular. He's got fantastic skills. He's got great jiu-jitsu. And I believe Paddy has a number of ways to beat him. Number one, he's faster. I don't know about the better wrestler, but he could probably match him for jiu-jitsu. That's for damn sure. So it's a tough fight on paper for Tony. I think Tony's got more power. But if Tony can somehow shock the world, shock the bookies, shock everyone that puts money on Paddy Pimblett, then why shouldn't he continue to fight? But if he loses at 39 years old, then yeah, sadly, I would say that it's time for Tony Ferguson and the sunglasses and the madness and the epic walkout music that he uses. It'll be a sad day.
If you come out and you say X, Y, and Z bad about Tony Ferguson, and you follow that up with, and if he loses to Paddy the Baddy, he's released and he's done, then it has to be a loser leave town. Because if he's bad as you're saying, so bad that he's going to get cut with a loss, if he can beat that guy's got to go. If you're openly saying, if Tony can't beat this guy, he can't be here, then if Tony does beat that guy, the guy can't be here.
I'm not ready to leave, but I'm ready to work. And I'm ready to work smart. That's, like a graduate. You know what I mean? It's like, I got to go back. Oh, I don't want to go back. Yeah, you're going back to school and you're going to get this done the right way. You, no, I'm not retired. You go retire. I have to do. I've been competing for 35 years. I am not even close to being done. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to finish Paddy. I'm not worried about scaring him. I'm not worried about being angry, trying to go in there with this negative energy. Whatever energy that he's going to bring is not going to bring me down. I'm going to make sure that I'm so focused with everything that I have that nothing's going to faze me.
Imagine what happens for Tony Ferguson if he beats Paddy Pimblett. He said before the last fight, I sat in the fighter meeting with him, and Tony Ferguson said, it's going to be a fight right now. 5 more fights, I'm on the title. So it's not like he has lost that desire to fight. He has not lost the thought that he can be a world champion. And I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is the saying as old as time, fellas. Every great champion has one more night in him. We saw it with George Foreman when he beat Michael Moore. He did not belong in the ring with Michael Moore. We have seen so many great fighters have one great night where if you close your eyes and you squint enough, they remind you of that person that was on that run.
Look, Tony is not, and we all know he's not.
Tony is not what he was.
What concerns me though is that the physical strength at the age that Tony's at and the damage that he's taken. It's the physical strength. Can he take the shots that Paddy will give him on the feet? And not only that, Nate's probably got one of the best, if not the best, guillotines in the game. And he caught him with the guillotine. But Paddy's got the physical strength to really, really drive it home. In terms of getting to the guillotine, getting to the triangles, those type of things. Now, look, I get what you're saying. I think the grappling goes towards Tony. But Tony's physical strength, he's not a strong guy. Tony's done too much damage, I feel like, to his body. And as much as I want him to win this fight, he's got his hands full.
I think this is a good fight for Paddy. I think that Ferguson is a very different guy than what he was in his prime. I unfortunately have seen a decline in Tony Ferguson and how he's moving and reacting to some of the exchanges out there during a fight. I would love to be proven wrong and for Ferguson to go in there very sharp and looking like his old self. But I think for Pimblett, it's going to be interesting how he approaches the striking aspect of this game. And if this does go to the ground, how good is his grappling really against someone like a Tony Ferguson, who I think shouldn't lose too much in the grappling department as far as maybe some of the physical decline that we've seen on the feet with his striking. But we shall see.
It's going to be the first time I've ever had anything like this. I've never fought a legend before, and it is it's my best opponent to date, definitely, and can't wait to get in there and put me skills on show and show everyone. Even though I've been off for a year, I've still made improvements over the last couple of months since I've been back in the gym training, and I just can't wait to make up for my performance last year in Vegas. I was injured last year, hurt my ankle in the fight, and as I say, I had to get 3 surgeries, but the Baddy 2.0 is coming.
He's a good fighter. He's long, rangy, lanky. He likes to put on a show. kind of mouthy. Obviously, he's English. I think he used to fight at 145, 55er, tall kind of guy. Good submission specialist. Very beatable. He's on a 6-fight win streak. The last fight that he had against Jared Gordon, everybody says that he ended up losing. Tonight, I'm actually going to be watching that fight. Just been watching a couple highlights of him. Very beatable guy. 6-fight win streak versus a 6-loss losing streak, which is fucked up. But I hold a couple records in the UFC now, and I would like to start that back up.
And Tony will look at this fight as if to say, hold on a minute. Here we go. This is my key to the door. This is my way to shut everybody up. This Scouser has a tremendous amount of hype. Everybody loves him. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to slow down the hype train. And you never know. It might just happen because it's a different fight than, say, Charles Oliveira. It's a different fight than, say, Justin Gaethje, Beneil Dariush, any of those guys, Michael Chandler, right? Not saying that Paddy can't get to that, but he's a long way off.
I think Tony Ferguson is a way tougher matchup than what people actually think. You know, could Tony Ferguson take him down 100%? Could he keep him down? I believe so, 100%. So I'm not sure what the UFC's planning on kind of pulling here, because if Paddy the Baddy does end up losing, you know, they lose one of their great white hopes. You know, what is that's going to happen? Is Tony Ferguson the right answer? Or do you continue to keep building a guy like Paddy the Baddy?
It was Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. Initial reaction, I'm like, God damn, that's a lose-lose for Paddy. You go out there and beat Tony, who's really good, but on a 6-fight losing streak. So you beat him, you're not going to get credit for beating Tony Ferguson. You're going to get credit for beating a guy you should beat him. But it's a dangerous fight. It's not like that easy of a fight. It's not going there. It's going to be a tough fight. Tony could 100% win this fight.
I'm telling you what, I think Tony Ferguson has a very, very good chance in this fight. Just to end this on a positive note for Tony, I think he's got a very good chance. I think he's got more power than Paddy. I think his jiu-jitsu is probably just as good, or if not better. Tony Ferguson is still a dangerous man. Make no mistake about that. And it's a really, really tough spot for Paddy Pimblett because it's a lose-lose.
Michael Bisping came out and talked about this. Michael was very polite to Tony. He said, man, that's not an easy fight for anybody. Yeah, well said. Well said by Michael. Michael also thought that it was a lose-lose for Paddy. That if he loses to Tony Ferguson, that, of course, isn't helpful. But if he beats Tony Ferguson, that, of course, isn't going to help because it's what he's expected to do. The rankings are already reflected in it, by example. And that part I don't know that I would agree with.
You got to think Tony's still only been fighting the top dudes.
Yeah.
Top level guys, you know. So I think like even though he's on a losing streak, Tony's still dangerous. He's still one of the best guys in the world. He still beats a good portion of the roster, you know. And for Paddy, it's a good test. It's a good test to show that you can beat an established vet who's been in there with the best in the world and things like that. So it's a win-win on both sides.
When it comes back to the Paddy and the Tony stuff, like I tell everybody, it's like it's story writing for the UFC. They know how to write stories, and so they're writing this story, and everybody's story goes differently. Like some people are like, well, why didn't you make it, or why didn't you do this and that? The story is not written exactly like that. Everybody got their own position to play, and so like most of the time you don't see someone who's gonna come on a 6-loss streak fight someone who's on a 6-win streak. But the story writing is going there, and they want to build that kid.
I agree with you because I think a lot of people think that Paddy is unproven, and I think a lot of people feel like this is a fight that Tony isn't in deep water like he's been in his last several fights. I think the matchmaking and the timing on this fight is excellent and couldn't be more perfect. It's a fun, interesting fight with two fun and interesting characters.
We don't need to pretend that this is an out with an old and in with the new. We don't have to pretend that Tony Ferguson can't win this fight. We don't have to pretend that a guy in Paddy the Baddy, whose full focus is on making weight, oh, by the way, and nursing and rehabbing whatever was wrong with him in the first place, which I think was a leg. That could have been a knee, a hip, or a foot, but I feel like it was something with that appendage. You don't know what's going to happen in this fight. This is anybody's ball game.